Before you ever spoke a word, you were known. Before you ever took a breath, you were marked. Not by man, but by heaven. There was a moment in the unseen, before the noise, before the storms, before the fire, when your name was whispered in the council of angels. "This one," said the Lord, "I choose." And with that declaration, a seal was placed upon you. It wasn't visible to people. But the spirit realm knew. And so did the enemy. The battle didn't wait until you were grown. It began the moment you arrived. Before you could speak truth, darkness tried to silence you. Before you could love fully, heartbreak tried to shape you. Before you could believe, lies tried to bury you. But heaven never blinked. Heaven never flinched. And even when you cried alone, the angels were stationed around you. Not because you were weak. But because what you carried was too dangerous to be left unguarded. You always felt different. Not better. Not worse. Just different. Even in rooms full of people, you felt out of place. Like something inside you whispered, "There's more than this." And there was. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. God didn't let you blend in because you were never meant to conform. He didn't allow you to be accepted by everyone because your identity was never supposed to come from them. The ache of not belonging. It was the echo of heaven calling you deeper. Why did things go wrong so quickly in your life? Why the sudden losses? The betrayals. The breaks in trust because the enemy didn't attack who you were, he attacked who you would become. He saw the dreams you hadn't dreamed yet. He saw the people you were destined to rescue. He saw the light that would expose his schemes. So he tried to dim you before you even realized you could shine. But what he didn't expect, was how even in pain, you would rise. There were seasons when heaven felt quiet. When prayers seemed unanswered. When the silence screamed louder than your faith. You wondered, have I been forgotten? But the answer was always, no. You were hidden, not forsaken. You were protected, not rejected. You were being trained in the shadows for a mission that couldn't be carried by someone untested. God doesn't send unarmed soldiers into battle. So he sharpened your discernment, deepened your empathy, and baptized you in wisdom. You didn't see the angels, but they saw you. When you laid in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, asking God to make the pain make sense, heaven listened. When your tears hit the pillow and you whispered, "Lord, I don't know if I can keep doing this," heaven moved closer. The fiercest attacks in your life weren't signs that you were weak. They were evidence that you were called. And heaven was watching. Not for your failure, but for the moment of your awakening. This was never about your job. Your family. Your finances. Your relationships. It was always about your identity. Because if the enemy could get you to forget who you are, he could stop you from becoming who heaven called you to be. But even in your confusion, you kept showing up. Even in your doubt, you kept believing. Even in your fear, you kept walking. You may not have felt brave, but heaven called you faithful. You didn't always get it right. You made mistakes. You fell. You questioned. But you never let go. And in the spirit realm, that obedience echoed. It reached the ears of angels. It pulled heaven's favor closer. It shifted timelines. It preserved people who didn't even know you were covering them in prayer. That's how powerful your obedience has been. Even your yes through tears carried weight in heaven. What you didn't see was this: your whispered prayers at 2 a.m. disrupted demonic strategies. Your declarations when no one was listening broke cycles over your bloodline. Your decision to forgive snapped the enemy's hold on your future. You were fighting a battle you didn't fully understand, and yet, you kept winning. Because grace covered what you didn't know. And angels were backing you the whole time. And now, after all the tears, after all the questions, after all the stretching, the mark still remains. The call is still alive. The assignment is still active. You've been through the fire, but you were not consumed. You've walked through the valley, but you never walked alone. And now, beloved, you're about to see why the battle had to be so fierce. Because you were chosen for this. White heavy checkmark. End of part 1, marked from the beginning. The battle wasn't fair. It came in waves you didn't expect. You weren't looking for a fight, but one found you anyway. You were just trying to live, to love, to hope again. But the enemy saw your light, and he sent storms to silence it. But you never burned out. You burned brighter. Because the fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. You didn't become strong by accident. You became strong because you had to. You learned how to keep going when you didn't feel like it. You found peace when everything around you screamed chaos. You got back up when people expected you to stay down. You weren't just surviving. You were training. And heaven was watching every step. If the path had been easy, you wouldn't have discovered the fire inside you. It was in the pushback that your gifts awakened. It was in the betrayal that your discernment sharpened. It was in the silence that your spirit matured. The resistance wasn't the enemy's victory, it was God's strategy. Because what was meant to stop you actually shaped you. You questioned why they left. Why they turned on you. Why their love felt conditional. But heaven heard the conversations you didn't. Heaven saw the jealousy behind their praise. Heaven saw the sabotage wrapped in smiles. So God released them. Not to punish you, but to protect what's coming. Because what He's building through you can't be touched by unclean hands. The lonely seasons weren't punishment. They were sacred separation. God needed space to speak. To download. To rewire your heart. Because voices can confuse what God is clarifying. And distractions can delay what heaven is about to release. So He isolated you. But only so He could intimately prepare you. Now you don't depend on people for confirmation. You hear directly from the throne. You fought invisible wars. Wars in your mind. Wars in your emotions. Wars in your private life that no one saw. But you never stopped praying. Never stopped standing. Never stopped showing up. And every time you chose to walk in faith over fear, heaven counted it as victory. You're not fragile, you're forged. What looked like a missed opportunity was really God's redirection. That door that didn't open. It led to something that would have drained your anointing. That job that let you go. It freed you for something far greater. That relationship that ended. It would have suffocated your purpose. Every no was a setup for a better yes. Because heaven isn't random, it's precise. You were never created to blend in. That's why you never quite fit in. Why small talk made you tired. Why shallow relationships felt empty. Why routine left your soul aching for more. Because you were called to carry glory. And glory doesn't settle. Glory doesn't conform. Glory doesn't compete. You were being set apart so when the time came, you would be ready. Every anointed voice has a hidden cost. Every powerful testimony has a secret fight. Every healing hand has been wounded first. And you've bled quietly. Wept deeply. Worshipped while wounded. But from that place, God pressed something out of you. The oil. The wisdom. The depth. The fire. You carry something now that can't be taught. It was forged in suffering, and it smells like surrender. You thought the opposition meant you were going the wrong way. But it was proof you were heading toward breakthrough. Because the enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. So when the attacks came suddenly, it meant something in the spirit was shifting. You were getting closer. And now you're on the edge of the promise. You're standing at the gate. And heaven is opening what hell couldn't stop. There was a shift. You can't explain how it happened, but you knew when it did. You stopped begging God to fix the storm and started commanding the wind to obey. Something clicked in your spirit. Not because the pain disappeared, but because you remembered your authority. And when you remembered, hell started to panic. Because a believer who knows who they are is unstoppable. You used to wait for approval. For people to see you. For someone to validate your calling. But the silence taught you this: if heaven said yes, no man can cancel it. So you stopped shrinking. You stopped editing your light. You stopped apologizing for being chosen. And you walked forward, without permission, without applause, without fear. In the noise, you heard confusion. But in the stillness, you heard God. You no longer feared the quiet. Because in it, He revealed strategies. He gave blueprints. He downloaded visions. You realized that waiting was not wasting, it was warfare done wisely. You began to understand, not every response requires your voice. Some victories come in silence. Before the door opened on the outside, the prison broke within. You were no longer bound by people's opinions, past failures, fear of the unknown, need for control. God broke the chains in your soul, so when the external breakthrough arrived, you could walk into it freely. He didn't just free your life. He freed your mind. You thought you were a casualty. But God was turning you into a weapon. Not against people, but against darkness. Your worship is now warfare. Your story is now a sword. Your prayers are now arrows. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Hell tried to bury you, but God sharpened you instead. Now, you don't walk into rooms wondering if you belong. You walk in knowing the Spirit goes before you. There was a change in your voice. You stopped speaking fear. You stopped cursing your journey. You stopped rehearsing the worst-case scenario. You started declaring what God said, even when nothing around you looked like it. Because now, your words carry authority. They don't echo insecurity. They prophesy movement. They call forth what isn't yet seen. You don't entertain everything anymore. Not every invitation. Not every person. Not every opportunity. Why? Because now, you see in the Spirit. You sense motives. You detect deception. You feel when something's not aligned with your assignment. This isn't paranoia, it's protection. Heaven has trained your eyes. Before, love was survival. It was people-pleasing. It was sacrificing yourself for crumbs. But now you love from a healed place. You give without losing yourself. You speak truth, even when it's hard. You walk away when God says, "This isn't holy." You don't love to earn. You love because you're rooted in Him. And that kind of love, it breaks strongholds. One day, it all started making sense. The heartbreaks. The delays. The doors that didn't open. The nights you cried and asked God why. They weren't random. They were required. Each one pulled something out of you. Each one revealed something in you. And now, you can look back and say, it hurt. But it built me. This wasn't about surviving the storm. It was about waking up in the middle of it. God didn't just want to deliver you. He wanted you to realize who you are. Because awakened warriors don't need a stage to lead. They carry light wherever they go. They move mountains with whispers. They shake hell without shouting. And now that you're awake, nothing will ever be the same. You've been counting days, but heaven was counting alignment. You marked the moments things didn't happen. But God was marking when the conditions became ready. The delay wasn't denial. It was design. And now heaven has whispered, it's time. Not because you begged hard enough. Not because you're perfect. But because you're finally positioned. You've tried everything. Fasted. prayed. Stood in faith. Still, it felt like every door was sealed shut. But what you didn't know was this: the key wasn't external. It was your growth. Now, because you're different, the locks are breaking. Your maturity has unlocked movement. Your surrender has released acceleration. Your obedience has shattered resistance. It's not just a door opening. It's a floodgate. Everything you thought you lost, everything that seemed stolen, everything the enemy tried to bury, God is redeeming it. But not in fragments. In fullness. He's giving back years. He's reviving dreams. He's realigning destiny. It won't make logical sense. It's going to look too fast. Too big. Too sudden. But that's because heaven is repaying. In the last season, you met users. Drainers. People who took your loyalty and weaponized your kindness. But in this new release, God is sending covenant connections. People who pour back. People who protect your vision. People who intercede without being asked. They won't compete with your anointing, they'll cover it. Because the next move requires divine relationships. Where there was loss, gain. Where there was dishonor, honor. Where there was silence, celebration. Heaven is issuing reversals. Not just emotionally, but publicly. Those who laughed will have to watch. Those who doubted will be stunned. Those who plotted will be removed. Because when God exalts, no hand can block it. You won't need to knock hard this time. You won't need to explain yourself. You won't need to prove anything. The doors you walk through now will be pre-anointed. The places you enter will already know your name. Not because of you, but because God sent you. This release is different. It carries recognition from heaven. You're not just stepping into something new. You're stepping in with a new posture. No more shrinking. No more second-guessing. No more apologizing for your calling. You will walk as someone who has been refined by fire and anointed by battle. Your confidence won't come from the room, it'll come from the one who sent you into it. There was a time when success scared you. When open doors made you anxious. When blessings felt like burdens. But not this time. Because this time, you're healed. And your peace isn't circumstantial, it's spiritual. You're not striving. You're gliding. This time, you're going to be kept by the peace that passes understanding. Not by you. Not by revenge. But by the fruit of your obedience. God is going to silence every voice that misrepresented you. That slandered your name. That tried to rewrite your story. They won't be able to deny the evidence. Because your elevation will speak louder than their lies. This breakthrough, it's not the finale. It's the foundation. What's coming next isn't just for you. It's for those assigned to you. Those who will rise because you didn't give up. Those who will be healed because you stood. Those who will be freed because you obeyed. This release isn't about comfort, it's about legacy. You were chosen for this. This next move of God will not be quiet. What He's about to do through your life will be visible, undeniable, and unexplainable by logic. Why? Because your elevation is not just about blessing, it's about glory. God is putting you on display, not for applause, but to prove that His hand was on you the entire time. The rise you're stepping into is heaven's announcement: this one was chosen. Many tried to copy your style. Some tried to mimic your journey. Others tried to duplicate your oil. But what they didn't realize was, your anointing wasn't learned. It was earned through fire. This rise is different because what you carry is authentic. And authenticity breaks yokes that imitation can never touch. What took you years of warfare to build will move things in seconds. Because your oil is consecrated. The way God restores you. The way He exalts you. The way He repays you. It will speak louder than any sermon you've ever preached. You won't have to say a word, your life will prophesy. Every healed wound. Every closed door. Every reversed injustice. It will all scream, God did this. Before, you hid. You didn't want to be seen. You feared being misunderstood. You hesitated to step into visibility. But now you're not performing, you're positioned. You don't need validation. You don't need permission. You were prepared in private for a stage that heaven has now set. And when you rise, no one will be able to deny who sent you. You were overlooked. Ignored. Underestimated. They didn't see your value then. But now. The very rooms that closed their doors are calling your name. The tables that wouldn't seat you are being rearranged in your honor. Because when heaven says, it's time, every gate opens. They'll see it. They'll hear about it. But they won't be able to interfere. What's coming next is angel guarded. You don't need to clap back. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove your worth. Your fruit will speak. Your light will shine. Your rise will be unstoppable. Because you endured pain, you now carry compassion. Because you were isolated, you understand loneliness. Because you were rejected, you can now identify wounded hearts. You don't just carry glory, you carry safety. You're not just rising to shine. You're rising to cover others in what you've learned. No one can take it. Not jealousy. Not sabotage. Not comparison. The crown placed on your spirit was custom-made. You didn't earn it through applause. You received it through obedience. Even when you were weary. Even when you wanted to quit. Even when you didn't understand. Heaven took note, and now the crown fits. God is not raising you up for popularity. He's raising you up for impact. Your assignment is bigger than likes. Bigger than influence. Bigger than being seen. You are rising to shift generations. You are rising to break bloodline curses. You are rising because someone else's freedom is connected to your yes. The battle was so fierce because the calling was so deep. The pressure was intense because the purpose was massive. But now you see, it was never random. You were chosen. Chosen to rise. Chosen to endure. Chosen to carry light into dark places. And the battle didn't break you, it revealed you. So now, when people ask how did you make it through, you'll smile and say, because I was chosen for this.